Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Jaime. I'm CEO, co-founder of Codacy. I'm here hosting AI Giants. AI Giants is a podcast that we have with some of the giants of our industry building the future of AI coding. Today we have Isidor Nikolic. Isidor is a principal product manager at Microsoft, leading products across VS Code, GitHub Copilot, and the VS Marketplace, driving features like Copilot Agent Mode, security for the marketplace, and AI extensibility in VS Code. Before this product, he was a top VS Code core contributor who built a debugging experience, co-authored the debug adapter protocol, and led accessibility so that the editor works well for blind developers. Hi, Isidor. How are you?
Hey, Jim. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Welcome. Before we start, three things. As always, we launch a poll to gauge your interest or usage of agent mode. You already have a few answers, which are great. And so please do share your input. Please do also post any questions that you want to ask Isidor in the Q&A or in the comments in LinkedIn if you're following us through LinkedIn, and we will adjust them at the end. And last but not least, we're also running a survey on AI coding risks and would love if you could participate. By participating and share your email, we'll also share the results with you sooner. But please don't fill right now because we're having an AI Giant session. So please make sure to save the link. And with that, we're going to start. So thanks you all for joining. Isidor, you've been working on VS Code for the last decade, which is a monumental feat in our industry. How do you reflect over the last 10 years? What has made you most proud?
How do I reflect? Well, it's been a lot of fun, Everybody thinks, working at Microsoft, it's like a huge company, but we're actually more like a startup working at VS Code. We started VS Code in Zurich like 10 years ago, and that was like, I don't know, a team of 10 people. So it's been really a wild ride, We never imagined it would have such a big impact. Like reflecting back, just by looking at how many users we have, even if every user, every developer, if we help them become 5% more productive, I think that's like a huge impact for the planet, and hopefully, helps our civilization move forward. And, what more can you ask as a person, to achieve in this world? So I'm pretty happy looking back at what we achieved.
Was that 5% more productive, which is fascinating, an objective at any point of the journey?
Yeah, so I hope it's hard to measure that, right? How much more productive anyone is by using VS Code. I hope people using VS Code are at least 5% more productive than before using VS Code. But, let me know in the comments if actually VS Code is making you more productive.
After all these years, what's most surprising to you?
Well, the most surprising thing to me is, when we got to like 1 million users, we celebrated like crazy. And like in the last 2 weeks, we just grew in the 2 weeks by 1 million users. So that's like surprising how fast we are still growing. So we have 41 million users in VS Code. And sometimes I read these stats that there are, I don't know, 40 million developers in the world or something like that. I don't know, it's hard to quantify. So it's crazy how we're still growing. Just to be clear, it's not like we grow by 1 million users every 2 weeks. It's just that September every year is super crazy because people are coming back to school, coming back to work from summer vacation. So just the growth that we're still going through is very surprising. If you asked us 10 years ago how many users we would have in 10 years, like nobody would have guessed it would be this many.
And if you think about VS Code versus Visual Studio, obviously a closed source product. What's been the hardest part of building an open source IDE that is a twin, even if only in spirit, to Visual Studio?
Well, we're sort of, part of the same division in Microsoft. It's called the developer division. So we talk a lot to our, friends over at Visual Studio. We share ideas. We even share some protocols like the language server protocol, the debug adapter protocol. They work in both. But as I mentioned, when we started VS Code, we were pretty isolated, working as a startup. So we just did things our way, what we thought made the most sense, and the products are still separate. And sometimes when I go to conferences, people would come up to me and ask, hey, when do I actually use Visual Studio, or when do I use Visual Studio Code? But that's, I feel like, getting rarer and rarer. I think there's like this clear audiences where like the C# crowd uses Visual Studio and pretty much everybody else uses VS Code, except maybe C++. That's sort of a bit split between Visual Studio and VS Code. But I feel like they're pretty complementary because when you look at the strongest audience that VS Code has, like the TypeScript, JavaScript web developers and the Python folk, and we also have the long tail of all the developers. Like Visual Studio was actually never strong in those areas, so I feel like we sort of split the market pretty well. So it hasn't been that hard, and we share learnings where it makes sense.
And as part of building VS Code, any fascinating, interesting, potentially funny stories that happen behind the scenes, so that we would love to know?
Well, there's always crazy stories. I just saw a question. I wonder how they built VS Code. Like, were they using Notepad++? Well, actually, like, this is the story. We're big fans of dog fooding. I don't know if that term is like used outside of Microsoft. I hope it is. It's basically using the products which you build, right? So we really use VS Code to build VS Code. Even before we sort of had VS Code as the product, we had the Monaco editor, which was just a web-based editor. And then we had a way how to run this editor in your browser over your local file system such that you can develop. So we even had that like after, 6 months after the team started in Zurich. So we've always been, building VS Code in VS Code even before it was, called VS Code. But what are like some interesting stories behind the scenes? There's actually a documentary coming out. I should do a shout out, right, to the documentary. There will be a full VS Code documentary that needs to be released in the next, I believe, couple of months. It's in post-production. I hope that's the right movie jargon to use here. So it's in post-production. It should be out soon, and then you will see and hear a lot of the great stories, behind the scenes. What's a bit like funny for me, like looking back, is how we sort of switched from web to desktop to web to desktop again, because we started as this editor in the browser, right? So we were fully not relying on Node. We were like not being an app. We just wanted to run as another tab in the browser. Then we sort of decided, we actually want to be an app. Let's depend on Node. Let's depend on the local file system. So we sort of built VS Code. And then we were like, we actually need to run in the browser back again. We need to support GitHub Codespaces. We need to support GitHub Dev. And then let's refactor our code base back again so it can support web again. So it was a lot of back and forth.
Ping pong.
Ping pong, yeah, there was a lot of ping pong. But I feel like our code is in a good shape, so it could survive all these refactorings. But yeah, I think that was fun, like all this ping ponging back and forth over the years.
That's really cool. Moving on to kind of a different segment as we look more into the market, VS Code has created a whole new industry of AI IDs. In fact, I want to joke saying that if we were to measure the market cap of all the VS Code forks, this would probably be larger than the return of 80% of VC funds. At the same time, and as you mentioned, in the process of playing ping pong, VS Code has evolved tremendously, right? And so Agent Mode is an example of that. And so I want to ask you, how do you feel about forks? How do you feel about in terms of fairness? And what's the conversation internally about them?
So, when you're an open source project like VS Code, which is a very successful open source project, all the forks are basically a testament to the success of that open source project, because all those companies that build on top of VS Code as the base, they could have built on top of some other projects, but they chose VS Code, which short of, is a testament to the high quality of the product that we work on every day. At the same time, when I see forks, because I personally work on extensibility of VS Code, so we always wanted to make VS Code a very, successful platform that others can be successful in VS Code. So whenever I see a fork, I'm always like, oh, what could we have done better ourselves in VS Code to make VS Code, a better platform, such that those companies didn't choose to, fork VS Code, but instead built on top of it as a platform. And I do think that we are doing a much better job recently, and I'm super proud when I see, some companies being super successful in VS Code, like, for example, the clients of the worlds, the Rook codes of the worlds, and even Anthropic and OpenAI have super successful VS Code extensions that integrate well into their coding agents. So when I see that, that makes me, super happy that VS Code is growing as a platform.
What's surprising to me is that obviously with the market bubbling and succeeding as it is, you guys you guys doubled down with open sourcing agent mode as well. And so, what was the rationale behind it? Why is that a great decision?
Well, first, it's on a personal note, it's really in our DNA as a team to work on open source, because the whole team is passionate about open source. I really see it in the team that the engineers are much more, passionate, enthusiastic about the work once it's in the open. Remember, we've been working in open source since 2015, right, on VS Code. And then we also worked on Copilot, the extension, and Copilot Chat, the extension. And they were, closed source for the first couple of years. And then we had all these special processes. Okay, now we're working in closed source. We do things a bit differently. And it sort of wasn't really in the team's DNA. So that was one sort of selfish reason to do it, because we really believe in open source and it helps us actually to move fast. On the other hand, we hear from a lot of customers that they want more transparency into how data is collected from tools. And with us open sourcing, they can nicely, look at the source code. They can nicely see, okay, what do we actually do with the context? How do we send telemetry? Everything is super transparent, so everybody can just audit whatever we do, right? So that's one of the key reasons from the business side why we decided to do this. Also for, security, because if you look at, VS Code, as I said, it's open source since 2015. We've got a lot of great, security researchers checking out our source code, reporting issues, even contributing pull requests to improve it. So because with transparency, security also increases. So that's another big reason why we decided to do it. Also, as you mentioned, we also want to be a platform. And whenever you're an open platform, when the people who are building on top of your platform have more, transparency into how things work underneath the hood, I think it helps build the full platform. So I think those were some of the top reasons. There's probably many more. I mean, we had internal discussions in Microsoft. Okay, do we open source it? How do we open source it? When do we open source it? But we were pretty much, I think, all aligned after a couple of rounds of discussions. Yes, this is something we must do, and let's do it. And so far, it was a success. I'm super happy we did it.
Open source as a strength has been a beacon for the industry when it comes to VS Code, and I fully agree. Last but not least, as we think about the market, what do you think will happen in the next few years? How do you see the market, particularly in the IIDs and IDs in general? There's a lot of different other tools that depend or not on VS Code. How do you see the market?
Yeah, that's it's, how do they say, it's hard predicting, especially the future. So I'm not sure what will happen in the next 6 to 12 months. But what I can tell you from my point of view is that it's very a very competitive market, but that also makes it very interesting. I think there's lots of innovation every day, every month there, or every week, there's maybe a new product coming out, there might be a new model coming out, and then checking out how do all these different talented teams innovate, so it's very interesting. And now, how will it actually play out over the next 6 to 12 months? I think now there's this push towards background agents, this async agents. And as I said, I'm not sure. But for example, today, I was going, I needed to buy some groceries. And while I was going to the grocery store, I was using, my mobile phone to actually ask like a ChatGPT agent mode, like their agent, which does research for me about, some personal research of mine. And I could see this, very easily happening in the next couple of months, that, I just use my phone while I'm going to get groceries, that I just run some agents which do coding tasks for me. Then, I can review it once I get back. Yeah, while you're doing other stuff, you can trigger multiple agents that work at the same time on different tasks, and then you can review them at your own convenience. I mean, I know it's already possible today, sort of, but I don't think it's in the mainstream yet. So how to make sure that it's a nice, experience across all this, all these devices. But as I said, that's, I'm not sure. It's a fast-moving environment. That's why we don't have like 12 months VS Code roadmap, because things move so fast. But just looking at my own usage of these AI tools, that's like a pattern I'm seeing. And as I said, we're, big believers of self-hosting. So or dog fooding, we call it self-hosting in the VS Code team, but nobody else calls
champagne drinking. You drink your own champagne. It's also
we drink our own champagne, and how we drink the champagne, we're then influenced how to improve the champagne. So yeah,
that's cool. I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, we obviously talking to other folks in the industry. I think that friction or the removal of friction, better so, that of going from idea, removing everything in between into product, not even code, right? Product. I think that seems to be the direction that we're all going. And is that also a tip that VS Code might have different coding agents for different tasks in the future?
Well, yeah, I think you already today can customize these agents in different ways. We sort of have all the building blocks that, we have the local agent, we have the background agent, or the Copilot coding agent. We have all these different chat modes. But I feel like we have the building blocks, but we need to, I think, unify the product a bit more to have a smoother experience, to make it more seamless. But fantastic. Yeah, we have to figure this out. Not clear yet.
So as we get into usage of VS Code, and you mentioned something interesting already, which is that customers want more transparency, and that connects to either complaints or comments or feedback from users about telemetry and data calling home. Has that been a priority? Has that been internally, a priority for roadmaps, or I guess my point is thoughts and feedback on that?
Yeah, I think this usually comes up, how we collect telemetry and what do we do with the data and how. But I think there's some misconceptions actually here. So one misconception is people don't know that it's easy just to disable telemetry in VS Code, right? You can go to VS Code settings and you just disable telemetry. It's one setting. Just search for telemetry, you'll find it, disable it, and then VS Code will send 0 zero data to our services. If we still send something, that's a bug. Please report it, we will fix it. We absolutely care about this, right? It's not like we're doing anything hidden underneath the hood, especially since our source code is open source. Having said that, people do still complain about telemetry, that's true, and maybe we need to do an even better job of being transparent. I mean, we have all of this documented in our docs, but I understand that our docs are large and this is just one part of the docs. So maybe there's something for us to do there. Having said that, for people that still send us telemetry, I want to say, thank you, because this makes the product better. We use this data only to improve the VS Code product. We don't share this data with, anybody else or any other team in, outside of our, partner teams. That the end goal is just to make the product better. So, for example, what we do pretty often is, we run experiments, A/B experiments, where, for example, right now we're like increasing the context size of agent mode from 128K to 200K tokens, and we want to see our users actually more successful with that, right? And the only way we can figure that out is through telemetry. So we have an A/B experiment. For example, we say, okay, people who are in the treatment group, they get a larger context window, and then we see, okay, does the agent actually produce better code or not? Do users accept it more or not? And by the way, we don't collect anything that is PII, which means personally identifiable information. We don't collect any of your source code, so zero source code. We just collect how you're basically interacting with the product. If you want to see what data we collect, you can always do F1, pressing VS Code, and there's like show telemetry. The output channel in the bottom will open, and there's a drop down, and it will say telemetry. And basically there you will see all the events which are getting sent to all our telemetry servers, right? So you can audit exactly what gets sent. And, if we were doing something murky, then, enterprises would obviously not use us. And all the enterprises use VS Code, like from the ones which have high security compliance requirements, like, banks of the world, to, others.
Well, I'm actually going to turn on telemetry now. After that answer, I'm going to turn it on because it makes a lot of sense, and I want VS Code to be better.
I hope you turn on telemetry. It's not like now I will, we really use it to inform product decisions. Because I'm a product manager, I use it every single day. For example, we just wanted to clean up one of the menus in the chat view because I thought it's too many items. And a simple telemetry thing, I see, okay, this item is clicked by, a billion different people. This item is clicked by 700 people. And I'm like, okay, nobody clicks this compared to the other. Let's, remove it. So it's a strong signal for us. But just to be honest, it's not the only signal, right? We really look at GitHub issues, we really look at feedback, user feedback, direct user feedback, so that with data really helps us shape the product.
Some users have mentioned that the priorities of the last few quarters have been or seem to be more focused on AI capabilities in detriment of potentially more core or quality of life features. And that might reside the difference between focusing more on new developers or new joiners or newbies versus more experienced developers. What are your thoughts on this? Where's the balance?
Yeah, that's a good question. And because we have these posts actually on Reddit. Every month there's a VS Code release because we, ship. And then every month, sort of, I go on Reddit and I say, hey, here's a new VS Code version. Ask me whatever you want, right? And every month, somebody asks me that question. Like, that's the favorite Reddit question. And it's funny, how you have these different Reddit communities. There's like the community, I don't know, like ChatGPT coding, which is like all the people who use AI for coding. And whenever I go and post there, everybody's like, oh, awesome. Like all these new features in agent mode. You're doing amazing work. Like, please continue. And then if you go to some other subreddits, like R programming, for example, it's very more AI hostile, right? So for the same post, it would be like, hey, why are you like stealing my data to train AI models? Right. Which, by the way, we're not doing. So it's interesting, to see this balance. And we also have our VS Code subreddit, which I feel like is sort of in the middle between, the
Balance.
AI lovers and the AI skeptics. So there I get a nice like different themes of questions. So it's a fair question. And I see that recently when people read the release notes, it's mostly investment in AI. Keep in mind that with open sourcing Copilot Chat, we are really all into this. So we do want to make VS Code the open source AI editor out there, right? We're on this journey, and we as the team are fully bought in. Having said that, it's not like we only work on AI. We also work on a lot of non-AI features, like performance, security, and then editor features, workbench features. But I do understand when people read our release notes, especially since in the highlights, we usually in the highlights put the AI features like improvements for chat. And then if people really only read the highlights, it looks like, oh, we're just doing AI stuff. But if you read the release notes, if you actually look at all the commits, or if you ask, I don't know, our coding agent to summarize all our commits in VS Code and tell you what it's all about, you'll see that actually I would guarantee 50% is not AI related. But maybe those features are, not fancy, right? They're maybe more in the background. So having said that, we are investing in AI, we'll continue investing in AI, and figuring out this balance is not easy. We're trying our best. If you have feedback, please let us know. And we're still open source. So if there's a feature that you really want that we're not tackling, provide us a pull request. We will review it and we'll consider it, depending on the feature request, obviously.
My individual opinion as a user is that I am very vested that VS Code continues innovating and inventing the future. And so I think it's late to take AI at the equation, and we have to continue bringing to light these possible futures of developing and helping people develop better products a bit faster. So I think even today you're just touching on different idea that is now in the last few months been sprawling, which is the idea of different coding agents with different responsibilities, and what is VS Code's approach to that. And for me, is exciting that the team is already thinking about that, right? So
I mean, absolutely. Also, it's like AI really, in my opinion, right? AI really has like this product market fit for developers tools. I see some other tools, I mean, non-developer ones, that they just sort of paste AI on top, and it's a bit of AI slop. And I really hope that our users don't perceive VS Code doing that. I really hope that they do try it out, because we have data from telemetry that we see when people try it out, they actually stick around. They do find it useful. It's not only that VS Code is growing like crazy, Copilot usage is growing like crazy. And we do, believe in it truly as a team, right? I use it every day as a PM, and I'm absolutely more effective than before. So I hope the listeners don't look at it as like some AI slop we're being pushed by executives. This is what I read on Reddit all the time. Like, oh, executives are giving them orders, they must do this. It's absolutely not like that. We actually really want to do this. We use this ourselves every day. So give it a try. If it sucks, there's a setting to turn it off for the haters. I appreciate also that point of view, but I do hope you give it a try and provide us feedback.
For what it's worth, we do have feedback. Our experience working with Isidor has been that he's extremely responsive. So I don't want to flood your inbox in any way, incentivize anyone to send you messages. But our experience is actually the team behind it really cares and replies quickly.
Yeah.
So that's something.
Exactly. So just file issues in our repo, and if you see my name and then the first letter of my last name, that's basically my GitHub username. So whenever you file issues, you can always add Isidor, and I will always see it. I usually try to respond unless I'm on some nice European vacation.
So as we get more into the final stage of this conversation, before we get into questions, by the way, if you do have questions, please do send them. We're collecting them. I want to get more into practical advice. So before that, to give a bit of context, we are running a survey about AI risk and the AI adoption, and that should be passing very soon below, just so that everyone can read. Essentially, 70% of orgs that we've been surveying are seeing widespread or moderate use of AI coding tools, but 25% are concerned about governance and team readiness, and 68% are concerned about developers over trusting AI tools. So what do we say? What do you say to teams that want to code with AI? Advice that you have for them? How do they start? How do they do it securely?
Yeah, so I think there's like two big like these buckets of AI features that we have. One bucket is in the editor, which is like the traditional completions and like the next edit suggestions. And then there's the agentic workflows in chat. And from talking to developers, I feel like developers usually, start with the completions in the editor. That sort of eases up developers to the use of AI because they're already in the editor, and then the ghost text and the next edit suggestions are just there. Sort of, you can accept them if they're useful. If not, you can easily ignore them. So that's how I feel like most developers start using it. And then I think it's really sort of personal preference. Do you really want to spend all your time in the editor, or you prefer, delegating tasks to the agent? It's like more how hands-on do you want to be? And for people that really, want to be in control of every character written in the editor, that really want to be hands-on, usually the completions and the next edit suggestions, which are basically just completions, but not at your cursor, but in another location, those are like a perfect fit for them. And then if you more want to delegate your tasks to the agent, which is something I personally do. Also, I'm a PM, so for me this is like a perfect fit for just writing code for you and you iterating with the agent. Then that's a better fit. However, I do see we have developers with 20 plus years of experience in our team that have adopted agent mode fully. So it's not like, agent is like for novice programmers, but I feel like for novice AI users, a better fit is maybe completions, but then like for more experienced AI users or, people who are more comfortable with AI, they sort of can start using the agent. And then for your question, about the security concerns, we're thinking a lot about this in VS Code, and we're investing a lot of our brain cycles in this to make sure that the user is always in control. For example, we have this setting to auto approve some agentic tasks. Okay, let me first explain, because I don't know if the audience used agent mode. I saw there was some interest. Please. But basically, you tell agent to do something, and then the agent would, start. And whenever it's doing something destructive, it would sort of ask you, hey, I want to run this terminal command. Is that okay? And you say approve or deny. Or it tells you, hey, I made these changes in the editor, review them, accept what you want, deny what you want. Sort of every time it wants to make some potentially destructive change, it should ask you. So in the first iteration of this, we sort of allowed that you can say, hey, approve this forever and ever, like for all the sessions forever. We still have sort of a setting for this, which is a bit hidden. It was even forever and ever. And then we were like, okay, this doesn't make sense, right? This should only be in this session, right? We really want the user to be in control. If you approve it, it should only be, until you end this agentic session. When you start a new agentic session tomorrow, it should actually ask you again. I know it might not be, the ideal, smoothest user experience, but we really think you should be asked, that you should be in control. Having said that, we do have this setting that you can just say, hey, auto-approve everything. But we really sort of say, hey, this is experimental. Only use this if you're in a secure environment. For example, if you're in some dev container which doesn't have internet access, or something where what you're doing, only then use it. And we are constantly iterating on this. So if you have ideas, feedback, what we can do better, just let us know. And we actually have also security reviews inside Microsoft that we are always doing, and we're always reacting on this MSRC. That's like our process of like security vulnerabilities, and that whenever there's something new that we tackle and address it. So I think it's a very interesting topic, and that we are constantly investing, but something that we are very, very passionate about. I don't know if there was a third part of your question, Jaime, if you can.
It was a very large question, but I think you answered all of it. And I think we connect now to the final part, which is something that we've been hearing a lot, and that is 68% of these organizations are concerned about developers over trusting AI tools, right? So in your view, how do we balance over dependence with productivity?
Yeah, well, I think you as the one using agent mode, right? You are still the owner of this. You really have to sort of review all the changes. It's it's not like the agent did it. You did it, right? The agent just helped you. It's your name on the commit at the end of the day, right? So everything that you push, you obviously have to read, review, be responsible for it, and then it's up to us on the VS Code side to make sure to make this also a pleasant experience. Maybe reviewing code will be a bigger part of the inner development loop in the future. It might be much more important than it was in the past. And then how do you balance? Well, everybody needs to figure out what works best for them. I personally, what happened to me like 3 days ago, we have like this candidate releases in VS Code when we have to fix something after the stable release. And I screwed something up with our auto model rollout, and I wanted to code up the fix, and I coded up the fix. I didn't use agent mode. And I pushed it, we reviewed it, we released the change, and I was missing a return statement, and somehow we didn't catch it. And I was like, God, why didn't I use I don't know, Sonnet or GPT-5? It writes better code than me. So that was sort of the reverse trend, where I wrote some manual code and then regretted it later in the day. And maybe that's my problem. Maybe I'm not an expert coder, but still the same point remained. I did not carefully review what I wrote. I did not test what I wrote. And it's the same if I did not review what the agent wrote, or I did not test what the agent wrote, right? I don't think it really matters who writes it, but at the end of the day, you have to understand it, at least the functionality. I hope this helps, even though maybe it was a bit philosophical.
No, it was a philosophical answer. It's not an easy one. I think our industry is being transformed, and I think it's fascinating to see. Wonderful. Well, with that, we open up for questions. We already have a few, so I'm going to read a few here from the list in the Q&A. If you have more, please do send us our way. Question from Ganesh from LinkedIn. How do you see AI tools like GitHub Copilot evolving within VS Code?
Well, we have a lot of things we have to do in the next 3 to 6 months. One thing I already touched upon, right? The background agents. We sort of started on that, and it has to be much better integrated, because you start from the chat, maybe use the local agent for planning, and then you sort of kick it off to the remote agent, and then it creates a PR, and maybe then you review the PR in VS Code. And just having that smooth inner development loop, that's something that we really have to improve. I think that's like a big chunk of it. Then there's the other chunk, which is our next edit suggestions. We're constantly working on improving them, and I still think that there's, we're still not happy with the quality bar, we're constantly improving, but we're still not where we want to be. So that's something that we want to do. And then also just something I am personally looking into is like quality of like agent mode. Because just from our point of view, imagine like there's a new AI model every 2-3 weeks. And then we have to figure out, okay, what AI model actually works best and how well does it work for our users. So just making sure that how we measure that, and then making sure that we have a lot of capacity in the background. Like we have lots of this capacity discussions in the background, which our users are unaware, right? Because we have millions of users using our agent mode. I forgot what was the latest, 3-4 million. And basically, based on those users, based on what model they choose, we need to have enough sort of GPUs in the background. Some of the GPUs are on Azure, some of the, sometimes we go to third-party providers, so there's lots of mathematics in the background that we have to, figure out how to optimize and how to be better at. So I think it's just this iterative improvements, which we always do in VS Code. Every month, let's do a bit better. So I'm sorry that I didn't answer. Oh, there's like this brand new feature coming out in 2 months that will conquer the world. But that's not how we work historically. I think we have like good things. We just have to iteratively continue pushing and improving them.
We have a question from Dr. Safa Hassan. Do you customize what each programmer asks? Meaning, does it learn patterns?
So for it, the model itself does not learn patterns. However, as you're chatting in the chat view in agent mode, your previous, conversation in the chat, it's always passed as context. So that it will sort of, learn. If in the first prompt I say, I'm in Zurich, Switzerland, write me an app for, transportation in Zurich. And then if in the, next step, I continue asking, it will know that it's writing an app for transportation in Zurich, Switzerland, right? That's the way how it sort of learns patterns. It's just that we're always passing the full context to the language model. So that's one thing. Apart from that, we also have these different ways how to customize Copilot in VS Code, which are like this Copilot instructions files and agents MD files, which are like more permanent ways for you to sort of customize the experience, where you can have in the agents MD, you can say, always respond, using Python examples. I know Python, I'm not good at other languages or something like that. And then you can sort of have that customizations in your workspace or for you as a user, which sort of always remembers it. But right now, that does not get updated automatically. However, if you feel like coding, you can like create a VS Code extension, which, for example, contributes a tool. A tool has a description, and your tool can be, add a memory to VS Code. And for example, then in agent mode, you can, for example, say, hey, remember that, I'm based in Zurich. And then hopefully the tool which your extension contributes will get automatically picked by the large language model. So then the agent will figure out, oh, I need to remember this. And will actually then just write it in the file. That is already like built in some apps, like ChatGPT, for example. ChatGPT has memory. So if you say something like memorize something, that's what happens. And right now it's possible in VS Code through like our extensibility model, and maybe we make it built in the future.
Ganesh on LinkedIn asks, VS Code is open source, but unknown publishers may pose a security risk. Can we have some insight on this?
So I will assume that Ganesh is asking about marketplace extensions and unknown publishers. Yeah, this is, we have like, I believe 90,000 extensions on the VS Marketplace. So we don't manually review these extensions. We don't have like a 30% cut like Apple App Store that, I don't know, earns billions on the Apple App Store. And then, has the manpower to do manual reviews of apps.
Let's not say that aloud to give ideas to people, please.
Yeah, so we don't do manual reviews, unfortunately. We have a lot of automatic reviews that we do on each publish. For example, we have an antivirus scan. Then we do, we like start the extension in VS Code in a VM, and then we sort of listen to what it's doing and like if it's doing something, suspicious. Having said that, it's not like we catch every malicious extension. Most of there's a lot of smart, evil people out there who sort of work around our checks. But we're lucky that we have like a very good community of users that report these extensions, these malicious extensions very fast. And then we take them down in 24 hours. So yes, there are extensions that pose security risks. We constantly invest in improving the security of the marketplace. We have an amazing community which helps us take care of those, extension authors. So having said that, when you decide to install an extension, please double check. So be smart. Look at, is this extension used? How many people use it? How many ratings does it have? When was the first time it was published? Or like, if I'm doing crypto and like there's a new extension that helps me do crypto development that was published 5 days ago, please don't install it. We are improving our automated checks that we automatically detect them. But as I said, we're not doing a perfect job, and there's smart, evil people who act fast. So it's sort of a constant battle. So yes, there is a security risk. Please be careful. But our official marketplace team is constantly fighting this battle to make it easier for you guys.
Good advice. Daniel Marks asked a question, I think, related to some of the things that we already discussed. VS Code, being an open platform, invites direct Copilot competitors to build on it. What is your stance on competitor fairness and guarantees that VS Code will not include private APIs only for Copilot? Are the integrations Copilot use fully available to other players as well? And will the new ones be available too?
Great question. So in our API process, we have our stable APIs and proposed APIs. So we have this difference between the two because proposed APIs allow us to sort of break them before we finalize them. And then when we have these proposed APIs, we give some extension partners access to these proposed APIs. So historically, we've given access to proposed APIs to the Copilot extension or to the Java extension or to the C# extension in Microsoft. So they give us feedback before we finalize the API. So this historically meant that, yes, there are some APIs which Copilot could use that, like, as the question was, that some competitors could not. I think that was obviously not okay and something that we're working on improving. And, with our open sourcing of Copilot, we are looking into how to, improve here. We're trying to even reduce some of the API surfaces, and that with some of the proposed APIs that are there, that we try to stabilize them so that everybody could use them. Having said that, the best feedback for me is if you are an extension author and you want to use some API and you cannot, please file an issue. Or if some API is missing, please file an issue. So we look into if we finalize this or not. It's not like we're not finalizing this, so only Copilot can use it. That's not the reason. The reason is that it's actually a big engineering investment for us to finalize something. It basically takes like a dev month of one of our best engineers who owns the API to actually finalize the API to make sure it works for all the use cases. And I don't want us investing in APIs if there's no demand for it. So if you want to build extensions that use some of the APIs, as I said, we're super passionate to make VS Code a successful platform. Just tell us which APIs these are so we prioritize it accordingly, and we will do better here.
And last but not least, we have a question from Narinder. Any plans to getting AI agents integration with some ready-to-use code-generated helpers to speed up the development process? If yes, how soon can we see that? So this touches a bit the different agent conversation that we had, and maybe this is market validation.
Yeah, good question. So I'm not sure about this one, because usually if you just ask the regular, like the language model that we use in Agent to generate something, it usually does a fantastic job. Like generating code from scratch, that's actually what these language models are particularly good at. So I would really like first to learn what sort of generation the current agent sucks at that we have to, be better at. And then if there is such a generation where it's, particularly bad at, then I would have to understand, okay, is this sort of a mainstream use case, or is this sort of the long tail of like different use cases? If it's like the long tail, then I definitely want, we have our extensibility story of Agent Mode, where extensions can contribute tools to Agent Mode. I believe even Codacy does this today, if I'm not mistaken, where users of Codacy install the Codacy extension, and then the agent acts a bit differently because it has the Codacy tools to customize things, right? So that's sort of my question to the question. What kind of generation we suck at, and then let's figure out what those scenarios are, and then based on that, I think we can improve, if that makes sense.
Because it's part of the core VS Code experience, and therefore should be part as feedback as well for you guys to know. Okay. I think these are all the questions from Jonas, which is pretty great engagement. And so with this, I'm going to conclude our session today. And so thank you, Isidor, for very transparent and honest answers to some of these questions, for us to talk very openly about these things, and for the insight into how things are built. I had tons of fun learning more about VS Code. So thank you for accepting our invitation, Isidor.
Thank you for having me. Just to be transparent, it's called AI Giants. I don't consider myself an AI giant, right? I am just a regular guy who's part of a great team. So, thank you for having me. It was a blast, had a lot of fun. And if folk have feedback, if they have any questions, feel free to, open GitHub issues, just ping me. I'll be happy to engage, or, wait for the usual monthly post on Reddit and then ask me tough questions there. Why are we only investing in AI, and how why are we taking telemetry data?
I'm going to be on the lookout for those Reddit posts. I'm going to comment there now. Wonderful. Well, thank you. Good. It was wonderful having you. Today we went behind the scenes with Isidor building VS Code. Tons of wonderful insights and snippet things that I didn't know about. So hope you had all as much as I had. As always, Codacy is an end-to-end solution for building products securely. Please make sure to test out our Codacy guardrail solution to make sure the AI code is always safe every time. And join us next time as we continue exploring AI giants and really fascinating, interesting people, and how they are really making the world different when we produce software. Have a great rest of your week, and thanks for joining.
Thank you very much. Bye.